At a fundamental level, the job search is about two things: understanding what a company wants, and then accenting the parts of your personality, skills, and experience that align with those wants. Does that sound familiar? Because it's like dating, where you also have to understand what a potential partner finds attractive and then accenting the parts of your personality that they may find attractive. So, whether it's a job or a relationship, it's not about lying to get someone to like you or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about being yourself, but just being your best self. So, to help with this metaphor, I've brought on Ilya Dorman, an expert in the psychology of software development, where he helps break down the rules of attraction in your job search. He's so confident in his approach, in fact, that he's promising to get you hired in 3 months or your money back. So make sure to stay to the end to learn more about how you can get started in his program. Well, Ilya, welcome back to the show. How you been?
Good, good. Thank you for having me back. I'm always happy to be on your show,
Right back at you.
and enjoy our conversations.
Yeah, you always have an interesting perspective. Most of the people I talk to are very job search heavy, whether they're developers themselves that went through the program or they're recruiters, hiring managers, career coaches. But your focus on like the mental game, the mental aspect of learning how to code and breaking into tech, I think is a very interesting perspective. Specifically, we were going back and forth just this last few weeks, kind of in a joking way, talking about some of the mental overlap or the psychological overlap of learning to code, breaking into tech, as it is related to dating. So this episode is kind of a joke episode where we kind of wanted to explore, how far can we take that metaphor? Uh, so so Ilya, as we were going back and forth
Yes.
earlier, at a high level, what do you think are some of the overlaps that we should keep in mind as we approach getting into tech?
Okay. So at first, when I came up with the subject, it was a bit of a joke, but I had a conversation with one of my students recently, and we're talking about him finding a job. And he told me something that I haven't heard before, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people feel this way. And he said that he was convinced that him finding work is like he has to be a certain thing. He has to almost be like a computing robot that does programming. And like who he is as a person doesn't matter in all of that process. Like he has to be able to fulfill a task, and his personality, his personal interests are kind of not a factor in that. Um, to me, for a long time, that was a very obvious thing that you should find a job that fits you as a person, that a place that the people there appreciate you for who you are and not for something else. Because if it's not like this, it'll be a very bad working environment.
Well, it becomes a very
So,
transactional environment. Uh, so to take that one step further, if I'm hearing you correctly, it seems a lot like people who try to reinvent themselves on Tinder or find hobbies that or advertise hobbies that they're not really interested in just to attract the opposite gender. When at the end of the day, they're putting this fake persona out there so that even if they do get matched, it's not a good fit. Am I interpreting what you're saying
yes,
correctly?
yes, exactly. And I think it's more obvious, I think, to most people when it comes to dating, but for some reason it's not as obvious when it comes to job or any kind of way of making money, building a business, anything related. Because if you don't put who you are as a person into the world, you will never find the thing that fit you well, and you will not have the energy to sustain this facade, let's say, to sustain the activities that you think are needed to maintain whatever. And you also couples that, each one tries to be something that they're not for the wife or the husband, and they're both miserable.
Yeah,
And I have quite a radical approach to that. And I think 90% of couples that are out there that I see are not compatible. Most people are not compatible because they have no idea who they are. They have no idea what they want, what they like. They just follow some kind of social programming. And it's exactly the same with job search. It's exactly the same thing.
well, I felt this, at least from a job search or career perspective, where a lot of folks, when they leave high school and they have an opportunity to explore what the next stage it looks like, whether it's college or what to study or going out into the workforce, They struggled knowing what to even do because, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I don't know. Their entire life, they're just doing what other people told them to do. And they don't necessarily have the hobbies or exposure to different fields to know what they should be spending their time in. So you mentioned you have a radical approach to that. What do you mean by a radical approach?
So what you said sounds like a kind of cute version of reality because it's not that people just don't know. It's that most systems are working in a way that goes against you figuring out who you are, because then you won't be able to fit into what society expects you to fit in. And society is not this concept. It's your parents, it's your teachers, it's your bosses, it's your friends. I had a few cycles in my life that I, let's say, broke up, for lack of a better term, with almost my entire social circle because I realized that we are not a match. Something has changed in me. And when I show up more as myself, um, they don't respond well to it. They're like, oh, this is not what we expected from you. When it comes to work, for example, I think I already told you on my previous appearance that I got fired many times because what I did in a way was exactly that. Not consciously, of course, but I kind of sold myself as a great developer that would solve all their problems. And I realized that, first of all, I wasn't such a great developer. I had other interests that I wasn't aware of. For example, I was always more interested in the business side of things, in the user experience side of things. And when I tried to, for example, switch and work on something a little bit different, I would get a pushback and I would be like, we hired you as a developer. You should sit down and do development. And they were completely right about it because it was kind of a bait and switch on
Yeah,
my
yeah.
end.
And that seems like some of the disconnect you have, going back to the dating metaphor, where it would be much better if instead of trying to force yourself to participate in all these activities you don't care less about because you want to find, because that's where all of the single people are. Like, it would be better in my mind to just really double down more on what your interests are. Like, if you really enjoy like going hiking, just go on hikes and join hiking groups, and you'll just organically meet people there. Or if you really like board games, find some board game nights and really engage there, and you're going to just naturally find people that are more interested in your same interests, as opposed to going out and like going to the gym more, even though you don't care because you hope that's where people will be, or even going out to the bar, even if you don't like drinking alcohol. You're leading into parts of your personality that really aren't real. Like, how can you expect to find a lasting connection there if it's all based off of facade? And the overlap there, I feel, is when I say, hey, you should do networking to get a job, people talk about how salesy it feels, how fake it feels, and they're really uncomfortable with it. Well, I'm not saying, I guess in a way, I'm saying go a little bit out of your comfort zone. You can't just stay at home all day and expect to find a job. But if there are events that interest you, just go out into the community and participate in those events. Even if they're not technology related, you'll develop relationships of trust with people that maybe do have connections. And those are the relationships that you really want to build, as opposed to ones that are built off of a shaky foundation.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. So I have two things to say about it. And the first one is, in a way, the approach of just go out there, do what's nice for you and socialize. It's also a little bit outdated because the world has so much noise now with all the social media around us, is that if you don't play the game to a certain degree, this is becoming an integral part of our life. Like, to be not on social media is to be a little bit like living in a cave. And a lot of people say it's bad, it's evil. My approach is it is what it is. On the other hand, what most people try to do is that they try to play the game and appear like somebody that they think is cool, appear or try to communicate, try to present themselves socially, even if it's like on events in real life or social media, as as a person that they think they should be. They think it's cool. They think it's this. They think it's that. And they don't know what about themselves is actually interesting to be presented. They don't know what kind of thing. And when they go a little bit out of that comfort zone, they don't know what to say. And it really begins with very small things. Like the foundation for it is so basic, because we all talk about what is my hobby, what do I like, who I am as a person. Well, when you went out on a date with someone last time, and that person said some comment that sounded weird or offensive or kind of unpleasant, did you actually say it? Hey, listen, I don't like that you said this thing. This makes me feel uncomfortable. Hey, I don't really like this restaurant. Maybe let's go somewhere else. I don't like this environment. It is too noisy. Because you cannot treat finding out who you are as this grand concept if you keep ignoring the little things about you that say, oh, I prefer this food to that food. I prefer this smell to that smell. I prefer doing things a certain way. Like it's very much down to earth. It's even more down to earth than what most people imagine.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. Now I'm going to date myself here, and I'm going to be spouting off dating advice like I know what I'm talking about. I've been married for over 10 years, so that was even before Tinder days. So I'm talking conceptually here, and feel free to ignore me and get angry at me in the comments. But I did find that I did have more success.
Pitchforks.
Yeah, that's right. I did have more success in dating when I focused more on what I wanted to do as opposed to trying to craft some experience that I thought the girl would want to do. So yes, I'd eat at the
Hmm.
restaurants I wanted to eat at. I'd do the activities that I wanted to do, and I would invite her along. I was having fun. Hopefully, I imagine I was more comfortable and confident because these were situations that I was comfortable in. Uh, and I didn't feel like I had to be fake and pretend to be something that I wasn't. Now, pitchforks, yes, you can come at me there. But there's a balance though, right?
Yes.
Like you have to understand what attracts the other party. So, going back to, social media, what types of pictures to take, what information to put in your profile, what is attractive to others, and highlight those aspects of your personality, not lie, but highlight it in a better way. Because I feel similarly when you look at LinkedIn, there's overlap there for how you may have 100 interests, but the recruiter is only interested in the 4 or 5 that overlap with the role that they're hiring for. So you need to know how to highlight it in a way that it doesn't get drowned out by all the other random stuff if you were to try to put everything on there. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, and I completely agree with that. So I'll give a different example about this kind of little things that you should be aware about yourself and kind of share them. So I know, for example, I have terrible memory and I have terrible attention to details. And this is something that if I knew getting into code, maybe I would have reconsidered the whole thing. Or maybe not. I don't know. But a lot of people, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to be something that they think they should be. So I have a student who is in many ways is similar to me. He has this kind of intuitive thinking, and he has really terrible memory, and he's so hard on himself when he cannot remember things, and he doesn't even try. For a long time, he didn't. I actually helped him to go that way, but he doesn't try to say, okay, I have bad memory. What else can I do? I actually have intuition, and intuition is just a different way of thinking. Again, it's not something mystical, woo-woo stuff. It's it's a different way of processing information. In many cases, it's when you actually can process more information and you are not aware of the process when it's happening. And then you spit out things and then you're like, where did this come from? Well, your brain at some point recorded it. So the entire strategy he would use, in my opinion, to get better results would stop completely relying on memory and rely more on his intuition and be more confident in it. And tying this to what you said about your presence is, yes, it's true, you need to put effort um to get results. You need to do the work, but you need to initially have the energy to do that work. And you have the energy to do the work if it's aligned with who you are. So if you're trying to force yourself, for example, to remember things when it's hard for you to remember, you're depleting your energy into something that gives you nothing, and you end up drained. And this is how burnout happens. Burnout is somebody trying to do something that they just don't have the energy for. But I think our minds and bodies are built in such a way that certain things we have energies for and certain things we completely don't have energy for. And it's very different from one person to the next. So, for example, if you have the energy to be social, if you have the energy to go out and meet people and chat with them, and some people have a lot of energy just when they're around other people, then this is your strength. This is what you should be doubling down on. But if you're a complete introvert, I would never tell you, hey, go out there, talk to as many people as you can until you stop being an introvert. It would be a terrible advice.
Yeah, the phrase that I've heard that I think overlaps with what you're saying is to like focus more on building your strengths as opposed to shoring up your weaknesses. Like, yes, I guess it's true that you can't just ignore the weak aspects of your personality or your skill set, but you will have more success trying to get better at what you're good at because, as you mentioned, it's less mental energy to be successful there. Like, I just imagine professional athletes. I don't imagine, I imagine that they are successful because that one, they really enjoy the sport that they are playing in. And because they really enjoy it, it probably becomes a little naturally easier for them. Yes, they work hard at it. Yes, they do incredibly well at it. Absolutely. I don't discount any of the hard work they put into it. But I'm just saying it's easier for them because they probably already enjoy
Hmm.
it. So it doesn't necessarily feel as hard of work for them as somebody who is maybe more naturally non-athletic or doesn't enjoy sports. Like for me, coding, I could code for hours, and by the outside observer, you could say, "Oh wow, look at how hard Eric is working." Like, but I don't feel like I'm working hard because I enjoy what I'm doing. Now, put me in
Hmm.
meetings all day, I will struggle there. Right. So, do I spend time like shoring up my social interactions and my meeting cadence, or how well I summarize emails? Would I have more success doing that, or would I have more success focusing on what I'm good at? I think it would be the latter. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
completely agree. I think the example of athletes, it's quite easy because, yeah, obviously people have different bodies and some are built in a way that it's easier for them to achieve those things that are required and they're enjoyable and they have the energy to do exactly that. So that's actually a perfect example. But many people think that this is where it ends. Like, yeah, you have athletic body, or you have a smart brain, or you have this or that. But the differences are much bigger. There are a lot of nuances in it, a lot of small preferences, a lot of like little details that people just tend to miss about themselves because we live in such society where nobody says, oh, it's really interesting that you have this quirky preference to, I don't know, collecting rocks at the beach or doing this thing or doing that thing. But it builds up from little things. It doesn't build up from some grand ideas. It literally builds up from, oh, I want to get up in the morning. Do I want to eat something? Do I want to drink coffee? Do I want to get out to the beach? Do I like sleeping 5 hours at night or do I like sleeping 9 hours at night?
Tying that back to the job search is one of the reasons why I don't suggest one universal approach for everybody. Because depending on, as you mentioned, your own, whatever gives you the most energy, that's what you should be focusing on. Some people, that means it's going to be a very social job search. You do a lot of in-person networking. Some people may be a little more introverted, so it's more focus on like the direct job applications, or just sending messages out, so you're not talking to somebody in person. You navigate the job
Hmm.
search based off of where your energy best directs you, and you really leverage that as much as you can. So similarly, the dating
Yes.
example, it's hard to have any one direct approach that's universal for everybody because it's so nuanced based off of what your interests and uh, what gives you energy.
Hmm. Yes, exactly.
So Ilya, look at us.
Exactly.
We're those are pretty good. We I didn't realize we had so much to say about the dating topic. As I mentioned at the top of this podcast, this was kind of more of a joke episode, but I think there's some underlying truth there. Hopefully, some of the listeners were able to walk away with. So Ilya, thank you so much for coming on. Before we wrap up, though, you are starting a really interesting program called "Get a Job in 3 Months" or "Get Your Money Back," which is a very bold claim.
Yes,
And since so many people
it
on
is.
this podcast are very interested in finding work, I would be amiss if I didn't give you a chance to take a few seconds to talk about what that program is and how people can get into it if they're interested.
Sure. So until recently, I was just doing the coaching. I used to call it mentorship, but actually realized that it's coaching. Um, I've been doing it for almost 5 years. And I was kind of dancing around the subject of helping people find job because my approach was always you will do much better when you get to know yourself, when you figure out your blocks, when you understand how your mind works and how to deal with emotional setbacks. Because when this is clear, then you will know what to do. And it worked. For many of my students, this is exactly what they wanted and gave them the results. But I realized that in a way, I was selling self awareness and I was not selling the things that people wanted. And 80% of them want to find a job. And it's kind of sending them the long route, like Moses and
The
the
Exodus,
Jewish
yeah,
people in
yeah.
the desert. Yes. And I brought on two partners, a good friend of mine, Dan, who's been working in the industry for 20 years. He has done a lot of hiring, a lot of technical interviews himself, like on the like on the interviewer side. He worked at Upwork and a few other companies, worked on high impact projects. He has actually more hands-on technical and management experience than I have. And we also have Anna Miller, who has a whole course and program that is related to networking, and she will be helping with the networking part. So when I had these two people, I was like, okay, with this team, I can definitely promise people that they will find job because it's literally the most bulletproof program I could think of. Because all of the technical side is covered, the networking side is covered, and then there's me who helps people to actually keep going because we figure out why something doesn't work. It's not like I give them a plan that says, let's do ABC and you will get hired. We make sure that this plan is actually adjusted to who they are, to their interests, to their strengths, to not try to push them against what is not working for them. Because yeah, it's very easy to tell somebody, yeah, you should network. Networking will get you a job. Everyone can say that. But how to network? Um, what happens if you try to network and you get rejected and people don't respond well to you? It can be crushing for some people. I know when I started building out my business and I was doing out a lot of cold reach and I didn't get a response from anyone, um, it wasn't a pleasant feeling. And I kind of took a break and I didn't know. So it took me a very long time to actually realize what is it that I'm good at, what I can help people with. So the plan is the easy part. Sticking to the plan and figuring out the right plan for you is the hard part. Putting all of it together in a 3 months program. This is what we're offering. It starts this Monday. It costs $990 for the duration of the 3 months. And this is the cheapest you will ever get it because this is the first cohort. It will most likely double or triple after this one. But we want to get the foot in the door with as many success stories as possible. So, yeah, if you want a job in tech, you should sign up to this.
If you want a job in 3 months or your money back. So no risk as well for
Yes.
participating in this cohort. And you talked about being able to handle rejection. There's another overlap there from the job search related to dating. If you find yourself really
Mm-hmm.
struggling with you getting rejected over and over again, it sounds like the support that you give, the self-awareness, all of that was part of your program to help people push through that and be consistent so they can finally be successful in breaking into tech.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Ilya, thank you so
Definitely.
much for coming on. That's all the time that we have for today, but I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide.